Fetal alcohol spectrum disorders is a range of effects of exposure to alcohol prenatally. The most damaging effects of alcohol exposure on fetal development is on the developing brain. So this defines fetal alcohol as a primary physical disability. There are specific facial characteristics for full FAS. The problem is that if a woman doesn't drink between days 18 and 21 of pregnancy, those facial features will not be present. In most of the cases, 99% of the cases, the only symptoms are behavioral. People with fetal alcohol are often functioning at about half their chronological age. They listen more slowly, they process and think more slowly. They have difficulty with memory. They have difficulty learning a rule in one area and then applying it in another.
They don't understand cause and effect. They don't understand that some of their behaviors lead to very dire consequences. 40% of individuals with FASD are incarcerated. And this is very important. There's no other developmental disorder that has this high of a rate of incarceration.
I began to realize that an amazing number of people that could be appearing in front of me may be affected by fetal alcohol exposure of various kinds. And the more I thought about it, I saw how big this was.
Individuals who have FASD have various problems when they enter into the criminal justice system. First of all, they have to come to court. There's a lot of legal jargon that's being talked, and it's very fast moving. So many times they don't even know what happened in court, and they don't have the ability to reach out to others and say, I don't understand this.
For someone with FASD, if you're trying to listen to what an attorney is telling you as far as what your legal rights are, giving you advice on your case and what they think you should do, unless the defense attorney dealing with them knows that they have this disability, then that person's going to have a hard time. And they're more likely to just go along and act like they know what you're talking about, and sure, and then maybe they might end up doing something like entering a plea that they don't really understand what they're doing.
As people with fetal alcohol grow up, they get pretty adept at masking the symptoms of their disability. They try and fit in. They can mask their symptoms because they can talk the talk. Their expressive language is often their strong suit. They can make perfect sense, and they're often very agreeable. Did you do it? Oh, yes, right? And that may or may not be true. And so communication is often compromised for people with fetal alcohol.
When you begin to understand something about fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, it literally can be scary to a judge. And the reason is that someone whose mind is kind of cooked by this can sit in my courtroom. They can look normal, they can answer my questions, they can say yes and no at all the right points, and yet, if they're severely affected, they might have the understanding of an elementary school person.
When an officer gives them a command and say, you need to do this, this, and this, many times they might do this one thing, but they don't do the second or the third thing. And that's typically what you're going to find with FASD is they're not able to follow 2 or 3 types of commands. So they end up getting in trouble because it looks like they're defying an officer, and it may not be that case.
Everybody misses a word here and there, but for these guys, they miss chunks of language. And it's very scary for them. They grow up feeling threatened by the world because they don't make sense to themselves and they don't understand the expectations of them. They will tell you over and over again, I don't know what I did wrong. And they're right.
What we find in the jail is that we have the repeat offender. They come back in many times for a violation of probation. And it's not that they've committed a new crime, it's just that they haven't followed through with what they were instructed or ordered to do by the court. And so many times the question is, why didn't they do it? And so the question to us becomes, what is the barrier and what is preventing them from following through with their court commitments?
They may say one thing in a clinical setting, they may say one thing to their PO and have every intention of following through. But then, because their ability to retrieve the information and apply it in a different setting is compromised, and because they cannot see what's going to happen next if they don't follow through, that's a very complex cognitive task. Then they end up getting in trouble. These are the guys who have difficulty calculating time. They can tell you what time it is, maybe, but they can't figure out when they're supposed to leave in order to get someplace on time.
I think that the benefit for lawyers in the criminal justice system to know about FASD, first of all for defense attorneys, because they need to let the judge know that this is why maybe this person keeps violating probation. This is why they can't do basic, simple things. And I think for prosecutors, for me personally, I like to have as much information as I can have about any defendant, because my number one goal is to protect the public. So I need to sort out if someone is violent and dangerous and I have to advocate that that person be locked up because they're a threat to the community, or is this someone who, with some treatment and some help in a mental health court, can be successful.
The situation, I think, in most places in the United States is that there's not a diagnosis that we can have on the record. So those of us that are actually having to make decisions in these cases have to do our best to just kind of intuit that this might be an issue and then act accordingly. So what I've had to do is to kind of adapt the way I do things to make, the way I see it, if I make my court forms more understandable and more concrete and less in legal language, so that it'll help the person who's affected by fetal alcohol exposure, it's going to help everybody. It's a better way of doing business. And so that's what I've been trying to do, is to talk in a more concrete way in practically every hearing.
One of the things that people can do, whether it's probation or attorneys or judges, is to ask the question whether or not fetal alcohol spectrum disorder has been considered. That validates the issue. And it also encourages a different set of questions and exploration. And by asking the question, we can begin a process of discovering what else is going on, so we can begin to be more effective in terms of preventing problems in the future.
These folks are deserving of court experiences and a future life that honors the kinds of abilities that they do have to have a meaningful life. And no one should be written off. It's just a matter of recognizing the issue and helping them to avoid falling into the jail system and falling into the juvenile delinquency system and then never getting their lives back together.
The start is just educating people and teaching them about what to look for. If we can get a young person who is in the system and we can do something to turn them around, rehabilitate them before they become an adult and before they become more of a hardcore criminal and end up in prison, end up costing us more money and victimizing more people, that if we could screen them, if we see something when they're juveniles, we save lots of victims, we save lots of money, and we save that one person. It makes a huge difference.